Okay, this is part 2 of our georeferencing lesson, and this is about where we left off. We had added, georeferenced, and turned back into a point shapefile the pumps of 1854 Soho District, London, where the cholera epidemic centered. And Dr. John Snow did some of the first and best medical detective work, and did a lot of his work with a map called the ghost map by many people. In any case, what we want to do now is get the deaths into the map and get them georeferenced. I've already done some of this. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the OS map and turn back on the cholera map, or the snows map, and I'm going to turn off the pumps. Now, I've already done some of this. Let me just go through a little bit of it. I want to display XY data of my deaths. I want to get rid of, I want to clear the coordinate system and say OK. I've already done that. That will give me an events layer, and let me actually do that. Let's say OK, and that gives me an events layer. Yeah, there it is. Now let me export that to a point file, and here I've already done this. I'm going to not do this. We have it here. I'll get rid of the events layer. Here are my deaths points. We need to make under the conversion tools, I want to do to raster, point to raster. My input features will be deaths points, and my output features will be here, and I will call it deaths raster. Again, I've already done that, and so the deaths raster is here. And as I said before, I'm not quite sure why this is, but I can't get this to georeference by the way I'm used to doing. So I then have to say raster to other format, and my input features will be the deaths raster, and I make an output workspace that will be here, and add that, and it'll give me the same name with the TIFF extension. Once again, I've already done that. So I've got my deaths raster. We'll turn that off. We don't need the pumps raster either, for that matter. So we've got our deaths raster TIFF, and once again we go to our georeferencing toolbar, and deaths raster TIFF is already up here. That's what I want, and I'm going to fit to display. Okay, now this is pretty daunting. It's hard to tell what goes where. The small dots are the deaths, and it turns out that the best way to do this is to try to find a pattern at the extremities of the map, and it looks to me like these two, the farthest southeast, are possibly those two. So what I'm going to do is add some control points, and I'll do that and that, and I'll do that and that, and let's see, where are we now? Let me back up one bit. Let me get rid of this one. Oops, that messed me up. Let's just delete them all and start over. We fit to display. We go here and here, And now look over here. This little pattern over here looks pretty much like that pattern over there. So I'm going to go over here. It's good to go kind of to your corners first rather than bunch them all up in one place. And that's looking pretty good, I think, so far. Let's see, depths raster. Let's turn that. Whoops, sorry, that's what I want on. There we go. And that one should be, where the heck are we? There we go. That one should be that one. Well, I don't know what happened. That sure screwed up. Let's see if I can back out of that. That's pretty strange. I don't know why it thinks it's bad. Let's try this one up here. And that should be that one. And they're not perfect. We could do some more, but I think what I'm going to do is, in the interest of time, call that good enough for the moment. So we're going to call this, we're going to update the georeferencing, and we'll turn off the control points. And so now we've got a georeferenced raster. I'm going to get rid of that one. Now what we want to do is turn this back into a shapefile. We'll do that. This would be from raster to point, and my input raster is going to be depths raster TIFF. We can leave that as it is, and we can call this depths points underscore ref to make it clear that this is our referenced shapefile, and we can get rid of the other one if we want to whenever. So okay, and so there's my depths points referenced. Let's get rid of the depths points, and let's symbolize these. Oh, who knows? Let's. There's a lot of them, so we'll. Actually, that isn't what I want. I basically just want to get my symbol. A little cross is probably good. We'll make it red, I guess, and something fairly small since there's so many of them. Let's try 10 point, and there they are. We can turn our points back on, and we can either use this, the base map, our georeferenced cholera map, or this. And finally, what we want to do is do a density. That's under the spatial analyst. So we're going to do what's called kernel density. There's several. Let's see, we're in spatial analyst. There we are. And so what I want is density, and there are several types. We'll do kernel density at the moment here. Okay, my input point or line features is going to be depths points ref. My population field will not be anything at this point. And let's call it depths density. And we'll say save, and the output will my input, I don't know why it won't let me override it. We'll say, let's see, what, it may be too long. Oh yeah, some of these raster things you can't have but 13 characters for some reason. We'll leave the output cell size. The search radius, I don't know what the default is. but it turns out kind of too granular. Well, let's leave the default for now, and let's just see what we get. And it's kind of, it's kind of too patchy. It's sort of granular. I think the search radius is not good enough. Let's do it again, and I think we can get something a little bit better looking. We'll do it again. We'll put our deaths points in there, and we'll call it death density again, and it'll let us override it. Let's try a search radius of 100, and I think that should work better. All right, that looks a little bit better. Let's symbolize it here, and we will go to symbology, and we want to classify it. Let's do, I don't know, 5 to 7 classes is enough. Let's do, let's see, red to blue diverging bright seems to work pretty good. Now it's got our red as the lowest. I'm going to flip those colors around, and we'll say OK, and it's going to go to the limits of the data, but that doesn't really show that much. Let's do this. We'll go to that, and let's double click on that and just say no color, and that could be a nicer color, but that's all right. We'll leave it at that for now. So that gives us our density. Should have had another level or two, but in any case, you get the idea. We could, in terms of modern times, we shouldn't be showing exactly where people died. In any case, that's not the most beautiful output I've ever seen, but it gives you the idea of how to do it. So that's georeferencing and a little bit of spatial analysis along the way. And let me do one other thing. Here are the data sources for the video where I got the area map, the location data, and a JPEG of the unreferenced snow map. So that's all for now.